Hey there guys, it is Poober here, and we are moving right along with episode 20 of my Factorio series. Today I'm hoping we can finally transition from steam power to solar. So before we can get solar up and running, we have quite a few items on the to-do list. The first one being the fact that we need to get a better steel furnace factory up and running. The reason for that is that we are still using the very early game steel setup that I have here, and it really doesn't produce a whole lot, and the little that it does produce is very slow. I've even converted the original iron plate smelter into a steel smelter as well, and that still hasn't really helped much. And then the loader station for the steel is also awful. It kind of comes in through here, snaking underneath, and then just doesn't even get distributed evenly. It just kind of slowly makes its way onto the train. So with that said, that's going to be one of the first things I do, is getting a new steel smelter up and running. I think I want to do a similar setup that we have for our copper and iron plate smelters that we have introduced in the last couple of episodes. Here's our copper smelter that you can see is a little bit more active than the iron plate smelter at the moment. We've got, I think, about 100 cars now that are in the system, helping to bring the copper ore and then the copper plate into the unloader that we have over here. Eventually, I will double the car amount that we have to about 200, but it's been working smoothly so far, so I think I want to replicate that for steel. So what we'll do is make another furnace setup just like this, but instead of having the car continue on to the unloader, we're going to have the iron plate continue on to another smelter station that will convert the iron plate into the steel itself. So I think we'll end up putting those factories in this convenient octagon over here. We still should have room, I think, for the oil pickup that we have, but I will have to fill in some of the dirt over here for the rest of the railway, and then some ground here where we have some water. But essentially, I'll be placing down another equivalent blueprint, just like we have over here, into this section. So with that said, that will be the first item on the to-do list, so I will see you guys in just a second after that blueprint is placed. Well, the blueprint is placed, and I have definitely got my work cut out for me for probably the next couple of hours or so. I imagine it's going to take some time to get all of the furnaces that we're going to need built up and to finish filling in the land that we have here, and then just for the construction robots to finish placing down everything where it needs to go. We're going to go ahead and do one cut here, so the next time I see you, this will be all filled in. And welcome back yet again. So this is how the steel smelter turned out. This time it used 732 electric furnaces compared to the previous smelters that I have for copper and iron plate over here to the left. Those just took 400, so I almost doubled how many smelters that we have for the steel alone. But how I did it is a little bit different. We have about half, actually a little bit under of the steel smelters actually devoted to smelting the iron ore into iron plate. And then as our car moves along the track here, it eventually picks up the iron plate and then converts it into the smelters once I have the filter change over here, which is right at this point actually. Right over here is the first smelter difference between the iron ore, which is this one here, and then it changes to the iron plate, which then smelts into the steel from here on up. So in all total, it should hopefully do about 390 steel per second if my calculations are correct. I did do the math to make sure that my ratios should be pretty accurate for getting the correct amount of iron plate for how much the furnaces should need for smelting into steel. Once I have the bonuses from the beacons and then eventually the productivity modules in the smelters themselves, it should even out. So for now we're lacking the beacons, but that is planned for the future. They will get eventually added in. But for now I do want to turn it on. I haven't done that yet. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Oh, my cars are over here, though I've been trying to stockpile them. But in total, this has taken me several hours to get all built up with the materials and then eventually all placed. And it's been quite a logistic challenge getting it all done, but I am so excited to see it work. And I want to start with 25 cars. So we'll start with this stack that I have on hand. As far as the unloaders go and the unloading of the iron ore, it is the exact same setup as what I discussed in the car smelting design episode a couple episodes ago. So if you haven't checked that one out and you need more information about how this works, you can do so now by clicking in the upper right hand corner. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and just start putting these onto the belt line here. And I'll have to remember to put on the filter. In fact, let me do that now so that we have a condition set. This time I want a special filter. We're going to have, whoops, let me stop it there. We're going to have at least one filter for the iron plate, or at least one slot holder rather, and then one for the steel, and then the rest can be what gets filled up into the car. And if iron ore doesn't quite make it into the car because we have too much iron plate, that's fine. It'll just go back into the system and recycle itself. So let me copy the conditions for those first 4, and then let's keep adding these on. All right, now that the cars are all on the belt here, and let's just double check that they have the conditions, which they do. I'll eventually have to add in the fuel to them to get them to stop blinking, but that can be done off camera eventually. Let's add up our belt line again, and then watch it get through the loading station. It won't have anything to unload, obviously, so it'll just pass through here and make its way onto the iron ore loading area, which is just this one over here. I already have the train ready to go, and then the cars are already getting full of the iron ore as we have the trains coming in. But one other thing I did differently compared to the previous smelters was I only left half of the octagon filled in with a smelter design. So we still have one full half that we can either duplicate another steel smelter if we need to, for instance if this just can't quite keep up with our demand, or we could put in maybe the stone smelter or something else over here. I'm not 100% sure yet, but the point is we do have our options. The other thing that is different is the stackers that we have. So this one over here to the bottom is the stacker for the iron ore trains that comes in. I think this fits about 12 or so, so not quite as many as our copper and our iron plate stackers. And then the one above here is for the steel trains that want to pick up the steel products. And I think this also fits about 12 as well. So a slightly different orientation, but I'm cool with that for now. I think it kind of gives it a more unique look. And then the cool thing I did with fitting in almost doubling the electric furnaces that I had into the steel smelter design was just kind of fitting in the rows of smelters to the shape of the octagon. So that's how I was able to kind of conform it, but it should still be able to make the rotation just fine without any difficulties from the car. Oh, and there I thought I was going to have been incorrect with that statement because I thought that was going to be stuck there, but it looks like it's making its way through already, which is perfect. How come it's not picking up anything though? That's the question. There that one is. Huh. Interesting, so I'm not quite getting the success I was getting with our previous smelting designs. It should be picking up the iron ore basically without any difficulty, but it is not at this point. So I'm going to have to do some troubleshooting and figure out why, but this should be working in theory. So this is really highly disappointing. I was really hoping to get more steel very quickly so that we can move on to actually getting the blueprints down and ready to go for actually getting solar. So let me do one more cut off camera here to figure out what's going on to fix this problem, and then we'll see the final result come in with our steel products. Well guys, I semi-fixed the problem. You can see the furnaces are now on, which means they are getting the iron ore that it needs to be turned on. But as you can tell, with all of the blinking red, we're having a major electrical problem. Our coal issue is even worse at this point because it is nearly depleted, which means the coal that I should have coming in to feed our steam engines is pretty much non-existent. So at this point, I don't think I can wait any longer to get the solar panel up and running. I'm going to have to go to a plan B, which will be getting, I think, some solid fuel first, since I have oil in higher abundance, I think, than coal at the moment. Also, our other coal patch that we have available as an option is all the way over here, which is surrounded by tons and tons of enemy, which I don't want to worry about right now, and I think it would take too long to tap into that. So bear with me, we've got yet another project and more problem solving to do. Next step will be getting some solid fuel. So I'm getting even more and more desperate, so I'm just going to plop something down very quickly. It's just basically a very simple chemical plant setup where we're just going to put in the light fuel into the chemical plants, and it's going to give us the product of solid fuel. And then we're going to use the solid fuel and deliver that via train back into our steam engine setup over here. At least that way we can have some electricity until we can get solar fully up and running. So let's go ahead and plop that down. I think anywhere should really be fine. We are very desperate. But let's do like that. And all we have to do, I think, is just hook in the light fuel. Which, let's see how we can best tap into that. I'm trying to look at my options here. I think I'll come in from this side. And you can tell that our electrical issues just keep getting more and more dire. But let's hook up the light fuel as soon as we possibly can. I have no idea how efficient this factory will be. I just know that it will give us something, which is what I need at this point. Okay, let's actually do something like this. And where are we getting attacked? Oh man. And I do have laser turrets over here, which are obviously not going to do us any good because we don't have any electricity really. Oh boy. It seems like when there's one problem in this game, it's really more like 10. They just keep compounding and compounding on each other. Let's see, so I have it like that, like that, like that. Okay, sorry you guys, I am concentrating very hard here, trying to just get this done as quickly as I possibly can. I would like to not lose much of the base. Okay, so I think that should be just about ready to pop in for the light oil. It's going to come from this direction and then feed into the chemical plants, but these need power. Let's do something like that in between. Oh, and we need in between here and here and here. I'm not really worrying about making this pretty, you guys, just trying to get this done. And we're missing one more power pole. That'll be just fine for now. Okay, so then we need, I'd say, let's just do a box for now for the output. And let's cap that off at, oh, I don't know, 500 or however many that ends up being. And then we need to worry about, we need to worry about this. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to delay responding to that, to be honest. Repairing the miners and stuff is a pretty easy thing. So I'm just going to kind of let that run its course. Unfortunately, I have to get this up and running, or else I'm just going to have to keep going back there and defending it because of power issues. So, let's see. Light oil. How come we're not really tapping into that yet? Because I really don't have any? Is that why? because I don't have power. Oh man. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of just manually grab what I can of the coal, which we have kind of probably idle in this train, and then just manually feed it into the steam engines, at least just to power the start of our solid fuel. But I do need a train to pick up the solid fuel though and deliver it. Oh boy. Let's see, can I fit it? Oh, I could use this train, although I really would hate to do that. I think that's what I'll do. Okay, let's craft a couple wagons and locomotives here. And then with this train set up, we will just kind of plop something down for now and then worry about the conditions on it later. I think let's do maybe a 2. Should we do a 2, 2, 2 for now, so that we can make sure this fits. Okay, and what is this train station called? It is water drop-off, so let's add in water drop-off, inventory full, and or inactivity. Let's do or 5 seconds of inactivity. That way, if water does have to come in, it's not just sitting here waiting for too long. And we need to fill it with, actually, let's just extend this line down. Solid fuel. Oh gosh. I have absolutely nowhere to put the boxes, so let's reorganize this. We will turn it the other way. And let's do this and this. Okay, well it looks like we're just going to get one wagon filled for now, but that's probably better than nothing. Okay, so let's head over to the mini base again, and I'm going to manually feed the steam engines like I said, and hopefully this will get turned on, although I guess it won't get turned on unless I have the recipes in. So let's do that, and then keep our fingers crossed that we start getting some power and start getting some fuel. It has been quite a while later for me, but I think I have finally gotten the energy crisis under control. I now have a somewhat steady supply of coal coming in, and that is because I did end up having to tap into the other coal patch that I talked about earlier. This one over here, so that meant I also had to kill the biter nests nearby, set up the extended train network, fill in some landfill over here. So it has been quite a mess of problem solving. But I do also have that light fluid solid fuel section over here. It's been producing a little bit, but not quite as much as I was hoping, which is why I couldn't rely solely on this to get my energy back up. But I think we are technically now in the clear. This train's going to keep on delivering solid fuel, coal, and wood, and other fuel type items, and it's going to get mixing in with this line here, so that way we have more than just coal in the future to rely on. But in the meantime, that means we can continue to focus on getting solar power up and running. So I'm going to walk over to the other base here, and we're going to go ahead and start putting down some blueprints for solar. So while I wait for the steel to start trickling in, the next item on the to-do list will be placing down blueprints for the accumulator and solar panel factories themselves. So one thing I do want to keep in mind is that I want to try to strive for a production rate of 1 solar panel and 1 accumulator per second. And because it takes 10 seconds to produce one of both of those items, we are going to have to use at least 10 of the Assembler 3 machines for both of these factories. So I do have a couple blueprints already in mind for that. The first one here is a beaconed solar panel build. Let me press my Alt button so that you can see there. The unfortunate thing about this build is that I would have to tile this in order to get the 10 solar panels per second. Although technically once I get the modules installed in the assemblers as well as the beacons there, it will produce more than 1 per second, but for now I want to stick with the even rate of 1 per second without the beacons. So that means we would have to tile this. The next solar panel option though is a little bit more compact, but it does not include the beacons, so that's something that I would want to upgrade in the future, so I may not want to use this one after all because I do want to just kind of have the beacons, I think, ready to go, and then we can add them in later. And then the third blueprint I have is for the accumulators themselves. This one thankfully does fit in the 8 beacon type coverage that we ideally look for, and it's more compact and it does fit all 10 assemblers in this one section. So I think I'm going to do a mixture of all 3 with this blueprint here. Now this one doesn't have the beacons included in the blueprint for now, but I will add these eventually. The reason why I want to leave them out is because even when the beacons are idle, they do still use electricity, and obviously I am very short on electricity for now. So I will add the beacons eventually, but this way I do have the beacon room planned, so that way I don't have to worry about ripping the factory up and then reinstalling it later. So now I just have to worry about fitting it into this section that I have here placed for it. One nice thing about this is that we can even pull from the steel line that I have over here if I want to supply the solar panels. But I think, let's see, we can either do it there or there. Let's do it here. So I think this should leave plenty of room for the beacons. Let's just double check. Yeah, that should be perfect actually. So the beacons will go in between the rows here. So each of these assemblers should get the ideal 8 beacon coverage, which will increase the production rate even further. The next thing we have to do is just wait for the bots to finish installing this, and then I'm going to go ahead and hook up the lines off camera, and then I'll be right back once we can turn this on. Alright, we have our first accumulators. I'm going to go ahead and extend that cap a little bit. We'll do 2 stacks for now. And we finally also have automatic production of our solar panels, so that is fantastic. What that means is that beginning off camera now, I can start filling in the solar panel and accumulator network that will be going into the railway here. It's going to be thousands and thousands of each of those items. But before I do that, I'm going to have to kind of clean up the blueprints here. We've got a lot of missing pieces and gaps and some weird bugs and things like that. So I'm going to be doing that off camera. So hopefully by the time you guys join me for episode 21, that will be partly filled in at least, or at least we'll be on our way to getting some solar panel actually initiated for our electrical energy. But with that said, thank you guys so much for joining me for this very trying episode for episode 20. And I hope you'll stick around for episode 21.